Right then, listeners, welcome to the deep dive. And we are kicking off a brand new section today all about the living world. So get ready for GCSE Geography.
Yeah, absolutely. And to start us off, we're going straight to the extremes. And I mean, literally to the coldest places you can think of.
Okay, so cold environments then bring on the ice and snow.
Well, it's more than just a bit of a chill. These places are defined by temperatures that stay below freezing for ages, like most of the year.
And the precipitation's pretty much always snow, right?
You got it. Plus, you often get some really strong winds thrown in for good measure. So it's a pretty tough combination for anything trying to, actually live there.
So where exactly are these cold environments on the map?
Well, you've got your polar regions, obviously, the Arctic up north and Antarctica down south.
Right, the classic icy landscapes.
Exactly. And then you've got high altitude regions, so think like massive mountain ranges, the Himalayas, for example. Even if they're near the equator, the higher you go, the colder it gets.
So altitude is key there.
Definitely. And finally, you've got areas in the northern latitudes, like Siberia in Russia or the top bit of Canada.
Okay, I vaguely remember learning about different types of cold environments. So is it all just ice sheets?
That's a good point. You've got to be careful to distinguish between polar regions, which are permanently covered in ice, and then you've got tundra regions.
Tundra, so that's where the ground freezes solid in winter.
Yeah, we call that permafrost, but then it thaws out in the summer, which is pretty short in those parts.
That constant freezing and thawing must really affect what could grow there.
Absolutely. That freeze-thaw cycle shapes the whole landscape and the types of plants you find.
Right, so let's talk about the living things. How on earth do plants survive in those sorts of temperatures for so long?
Well, the plants in these areas have had to adapt in some pretty amazing ways because they only have a short growing season.
So we're not talking like giant redwoods or anything.
No, not quite. You mostly find low-lying plants, things like mosses and lichens and sort of dwarf shrubs.
Keeping out of the wind, I guess.
Exactly. Staying close to the ground helps them avoid the worst of the wind and maybe soak up a bit of extra warmth from the soil.
And what about their leaves? They must be pretty special to cope.
Oh, yeah. They've got all sorts of adaptations. Many of them have small, waxy leaves, which helps to reduce water loss through transpiration.
Which is super important when most of the water is frozen.
Absolutely. Conserving water is crucial, and some even have darker leaves so they can absorb more sunlight when the sun does decide to show its face.
Smart. Now, what about animals? They can't exactly grow thicker leaves, can they?
They've got their own tricks up their sleeves. Insulation is a big one. Think about polar bears or Arctic foxes. They've got that incredibly thick fur.
Like a built-in coat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And birds like penguins have dense feathers, and then you've got marine mammals like seals with a thick layer of blubber to keep them warm.
Ah, so like a natural wetsuit.
Pretty much, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of some animals that are completely white.
Oh yeah, like Arctic hares and things.
That's camouflage. It helps them blend in with the snow so they can sneak up on prey or hide from predators.
If they can't see you, they can't eat you.
Precisely. And then you've got animals that just decide to up and leave when it gets really cold.
Migration, right?
Yeah. Animals like Arctic terns fly thousands of miles to escape the winter, and caribou also migrate huge distances to find food.
Talk about a long commute, and what about hibernation, the ultimate power nap?
Hibernation is where some animals go into a state of inactivity to conserve energy during the long winter.
So they basically just sleep through the worst of it.
Exactly, though. It's less common in the really extreme polar regions. You see it more in slightly less harsh cold environments.
Makes sense. So overall, it sounds like life in cold environments is pretty tough. What would you say are the biggest challenges for these plants and animals?
Well, one of the main things is access to liquid water because so much of it is frozen solid. And then there's the really short growing season, which limits how much food is available. And of course, just the extreme temperatures themselves require loads of energy just to stay warm.
It's a constant battle against the elements. So to sum up our first deep dive into the living world, we've explored cold environments from the polar regions to the tundra with their freezing temperatures and unique conditions.
And we've seen how the plants and animals there have evolved these amazing adaptations to survive everything from low-lying growth and thick fur to camouflage and migration.
All these strategies help them cope with the lack of water, the short growing season, and the intense cold. So for your GCSE geography, it's all about understanding how these adaptations show just how diverse life on Earth can be.
Absolutely. Different ecosystems have different challenges, and life has found incredible ways to meet those challenges. It's a brilliant example of how the environment shapes the living world.
It really makes you think about what's the most crucial thing for survival in those freezing conditions. So many incredible adaptations. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty impressed by the resilience of nature.
Me too.
Well, we'll leave you to ponder that one and join us next time as we continue our exploration of the living world.
See you then.